Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I am your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. And today I have Sam Hupp. He is the founder and CEO of AIC 1230 Group. He's going to be on the show to talk about his business, his journey to business ownership, and share a sneak peek into what it's like to build and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this one. Welcome, Sam. It's so nice to have you here on the show today.
Thank you. It's really great to be here. Appreciate it.
For sure. Well, I'd like to dive in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a glimpse into what the business is.
Yeah, sure. So I been in retail and wholesale for my entire career when I had hair up here and not on my face. And one of the things I came across of in a lot of situations where a lot of people don't know some of the standard tips and tricks of the industry. And when I say the industry, I mean retail industry, from the buying side to the selling side to that kind of thing. And so, I left the corporate world and started with a few independent companies. And then I realized, you know what? There's a lot of people with fantastic ideas and fantastic stories that just need something to get over that hump, just need a little coaching, just a little
Mhm.
structure, or they've never seen a scenario that may be new to them, but maybe in the big box world or the larger environment, it's pretty much standard problems that we go through day by day. So I started a company, AIC 1230 Group, and it's actually Latin, but I did the abbreviation. I did group, so it looked like I had more people, but the 1230 is my son's birthday. And so I just try to make it a little kind of different. But basically what I do is I would work with companies that small entrepreneurial kind of situations that just need some help figuring things out, need some help understanding cash flow or merchandising or buying strategy or working with vendors or, all the individual little things that, most companies run up against when trying to grow a business. And it can be very, scary, when they run into a scenario where all these vendors are asking for everything and you're trying to satisfy everybody and you're trying to hit your numbers. And, a lot of these owners and leaders of their company, they've just never experienced that. And what I learned was it's not just the little guys. It's also some of the medium and larger scale guys. I'm actually with another company right now called Paris 1901. And that's the whole reason they brought me in here, is to really kind of translate some larger scale ideas or smaller scale ideas into something equitable and performative for the organization. And it's a lot of fun. I still work with a couple of different retailers on the side to help them out. There's a store called Keepsake here in Dallas, and she's in a fantastic store, great line of clothing. And there's another store called Blue Ryan that I work with. It has 2 locations. But it's just fun because you can just kind of show them, get them past that hurdle and just watch them explode. It's really, really cool. It's exciting.
That is so much fun. And it really strikes a chord with me too, because I was actually in fashion for a little bit of my life too. And
There
so
you
it's
go.
so fun to hear about this journey and, hearing about products and helping companies. And so, within the company, how many employees do you have with the current with the
So
group that you had?
so with AIC right now, what I do, um, I help. The whole idea was to kind of help not just myself, but also my friends. Because when I started the company, it was another one of those, the whole world's laying off everybody and everybody's being jerk faces, and we just got to take care of each other.
Hmm.
So what I did was I allowed several of my close friends who had key subject matter expertise to put on their LinkedIn that they were employed by my company. And so therefore, I never paid them. I never, really put any kind of, don't tell the IRS, tax kind of things in place for it. But I let them use my company as a platform to engage other people as consultants, because it's a little bit more selling when they have the impression that there's a large organization behind it. And I wouldn't do that with just anybody, but I knew these people were very strong. There was a woman that was a good friend of mine that was an incredible e-commerce marketer, and she wanted to start her own consulting thing about it. But you've got so many businesses out there, it's really tough for her to compete in that environment. So I listed her as my company in e-commerce. And then there's another woman that is listed as a director of planning. because she is like spot on with her planning. She can forecast to the nth degree. And
Mm-hmm.
we worked with her to help her connect with a couple of contracts out of California and Dallas and in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another gentleman that's great in sales. He now works for a company in Europe based on the fact that he was able to leverage working for AIC 1230 Group. And so I was involved in a lot of those calls and a lot of those conversations. But realistically, these guys are awesome and they just needed a chance. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, you know what? I've got a company. I know what I'm doing. I can get by with a lot of different things, but these are subject matter experts. So let's give them a chance to get better. So as of right now, I think there's probably 4 or 5 people that are listed as part of the organization. But with my present company, Paris 1901, there's about 6 or 7 team members within this team here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I really enjoy that. Well, tell me a little bit more about the Paris 1901 company. I'd like to just
Okay.
think a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So it was started by a gentleman that came to America about 44 years ago named Felix Chen. And he basically was doing jewelry, small silver jewelry, gold jewelry, things like that. And it just exploded and took off. And about 17 or so years ago, they decided to go the brand route. And my background, I worked with Michael Kors, I worked with watch brands. I've been around brands for quite a while. So they decided to layer on a bunch of brands for organization. So Paris 1901 is actually the parent company over Elle Jewelry, Elle the magazine, Charles Garnier, Ethos, a men's line, Monte Luna, which is another diamond line that we do, and we tailor and really focus on independent customers. The independent market is doing fantastic right now. And so we are the kind of the destination for if you want to have a brand in your store, you work with us. And then we tailor all of our stuff to focus on the independent guys. Like we make it super, super easy. We have very simple iPads that they can order off of. They can do it online. They can do it through email. Because I was explaining, and you can appreciate this with a lot of these independent guys, I was explaining to my sales team, the same guy that's picking out or same girl that's picking out that one ring is also changing the fluorescent lights, is also buying the toilet paper at Sam's, is also,
Mhm.
so you got to make it as easy as possible for these guys, as
Yeah.
easy as you possibly can for them to be able to do their business. And so bring to them the best styles, suggestions, best sellers. Again, also employing kind of the AIC tips of what's worked, what do you not want to waste your time on, what should you focus on, and it really helps their business and grow. And then you start building that relationship. You're essentially gap selling what this customer needs to fix their business, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I got here in March. I was contracted with them prior to that, and we're seeing 24% increase in June, 58% in July, and we're on track to be even better in August. So it's just, but it's back to my core of wanting to help people and showing them better ways of doing things. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That is incredible. Well, I absolutely love that. And so, like for either of the companies,
Mhm.
if I were a client, like how would I know I would be a great fit for your company?
Well, essentially, that's the conversation. So we started all with talking. You got to talk. You got to communicate. You have to, I'd lead off with, tell me about your business. Tell me about your demographics. Tell me about what you struggle with. What are you looking for? And then ideally, if we have something, it's more of a presentation. For example, we had a customer that was having a really hard time bringing the younger consumer across the threshold, right? Because it's a jewelry store and it's in a small town and they're used to all their normal clientele are really kind of aging up there. They don't really need as much jewelry because they've been buying from this guy for a while. And his wife was saying, we need a way to bring in new customers. Well, we have a line called M by Montaluna, and that's specifically tailored for that opening customer. It's very good price points from $69 to $250 retail, but it's 14 karat gold on silver with actual diamonds, small diamonds in there.
Mm.
So that was perfect for them. They placed it in June at the JCK show, and we've seen 3 different reorders come back from them because the lady told me it was really funny. She said all the women in her town, the moms, their daughters are now coming of age and they want fine jewelry. She said, I could
Mhm.
buy one of your bracelets from Montaluna for like 149 bucks. And if she breaks it, then I can say, see, you're not ready. But if she keeps it right, then she's going to step them up and buy something a little bit nicer. So it's really just understanding what the fit is, what the next level is for that. We had another customer, and that's the other thing. You've got to be there for them, right? You've got to be there for the whole process. It's not just the selling, it's the aftermarket, it's the storytelling. Literally just today, we had a store call us out of Long Island, and they just recently got broken into and held up. They hadn't even finished paying off the product that they bought from us in July.
Mm.
So what we did for them is I said, you're going to get insurance to pay for it. Let's ship you a whole new group of product, and we'll do terms. We'll do dated terms. So you don't have to pay for that until 30, 60, 90 days. The insurance will cover what was taken, and then we go into that process. And it meant the world to them because they didn't have anything to sell. They stole the whole store.
Oh my
So
goodness.
here you have a woman, she's supporting her kids, she's supporting her mother, and she had nothing to sell to try to do that. So it's things like that that it behooves us to, like, I don't use pay it forward. That's kind of cliche, but definitely there's a karma vibe there, right? There's definitely a let's take care of each other because it's not competition, right? It's community. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I'm trying to instill the culture of this environment here. So when you come to me, am I a fit? I just ask the question back. Well, let's find out. Start talking.
Oh, that's a really cool story. Thank you for sharing that and like just
Yeah.
seeing how you can help them through that time. That must be like super hard for them and
Oh my
just
gosh, I can't even. It was gunpoint. Can you believe that? And they
gee.
broke everything. They took the fixtures. I mean, like the lady was saying there was a woman with her daughter in there, like a baby. Like it
Oh,
had to be terrifying. The last thing you need is some vendor saying, "Hey, you got to pay me for my stuff." It's not like that. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It just you can't. I can't even imagine having to face that kind of conversation after going through something like that. So,
Yeah.
thankfully nobody was hurt, and they'll be able to recoup all that stuff. So that's good.
Oh, definitely. Well, that's a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that with me. I kind of like to dive into your marketing, especially, thinking
Yeah.
about both the businesses. You're doing, working with products, and
Mhm.
how have you found success in marketing pursuits to find your clients?
So it's really, thank you for asking that. It's really interesting. From a consultant standpoint, to market yourself is kind of sometimes it's uncomfortable because you're basically saying you're bragging about yourself, right? You're bragging about your abilities and hoping people believe you, essentially. But what I've learned is you have to almost do a lot of free uh solicitation, free promotions of yourself to get there. Like, for example, I started a newsletter called The Navigator on LinkedIn. And all it is, it's free, anybody can subscribe to it, but all it is really talking about situational occurrences or periods in business, small business, that sometimes you just need a little help getting through. Like we talk about how do you pick a brand for your store? We talk about managing cash flow. We talk about revenue streams, and these are all different articles within that newsletter. And I just started doing that because if we're standing here trying to convince somebody that I kind of know what I'm talking about, the proof's in the pudding, right? Because you're not always going to get that one-on-one conversation. So for the consultant side, really putting yourself out there, engaging in communications, topics of articles,
Mm.
staying away from the political stuff, but really focusing on just business and really driving business and how you can help other people drive business, and people gravitate towards you. And then with the Paris 1901, because it's a very brand driven organization, we really focus on the branding aspect and the storytelling aspect, from email blasts to we do newsletters for the wholesale. We do like, for example, different little counter cards and in case cards where we talk about L and the national ad. We work with the licensee partners to get some of what their storytelling is and really play into that. But the main thing is really giving these independent jewelers and these independent customers all the assets they could possibly need, because they don't have the ability to have professional photography done. They don't have the ability. Well, some of them do. I take that back, but for the most part, it's a thing. It's another expense, right?
Hmm.
But if I pay for the photography from my budget, but I'm able to send it to the 1,200, 1,800 stores, then talk about bang for the buck. They can use it for their Instagram feeds, their Facebook feeds, all that kind of stuff. And it's actually also getting the same message. And that's something I learned from working with Michael at Michael Kors is, you create the same story across the board. So no matter what they see, they're going to see the same messaging over and over and over. And Costa Cartsotis taught me that at Fossil Group too. Make the
Yeah.
message the same. It's all the same kind of thing. And so that's really how we focus on the marketing here. The font needs to be the same, the look, but really getting it out there and empowering the people to do it themselves. Uh, but also it encourages them to keep coming back for more images because it makes it easy. They don't have to go from scratch. They can just take it and post it.
That is so great. You're building such a community out of what you're like
We're
grounded in
trying.
marketing. Yeah, that's huge. Oh, well, we've focused a lot on the business. I'd like to focus a little bit on you.
Okay.
What brought you into entrepreneurship? What was that like for you, you know, trying like transitioning out of like corporate and into
Yeah.
entrepreneurship?
Um, it was scary. It was scary for my wife. It was scary for me, my kids, my dogs and cats.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, I left Fossil Group to help start a watch company. And the company is called Jack Mason. And when we launched it, it was me, another friend of mine, basically. We were the two VPs of sales. And there were two gentlemen that started that company from scratch. And we grew it to be the number one licensed brand for fanatics.com, for Nordstrom's, for Dillard's. We had tremendous licensed watches with NFL and NCAA. And then we had our own house brand of Jack Mason. And everything was going great. And then there was just a different change in direction. And so I left that company along with my counterpart. And he went to Timex. And I just thought, you know what? I could start my own company and it's going to be scary and it's going to be, but you know, are you familiar with the term burn the ships? Basically, is an old painting from Cortez when he came to America. He
Mm-hmm.
basically, all his buddies wanted to go back. And he was like, you know what? We're not going back, burn the ships. Well, that's actually background wallpaper on my computer. Just burn the ships because sometimes you just got to go. You just got to go forward and just fight through it. And it's scary. But, I'm a big fan of manifesting and believing that, there's a plan already established. You just got to do what you can to get there. And so that's what I did. I pushed through and found some old relationships and contracts through New York and through different jewelry things. And then worked with another friend of mine and we got the Columbia watch license and we opened that up for several doors. And it's just a matter of just kind of having faith in yourself. And I got to, straight up, it was scary. It was very, very scary because there'd be times where you just didn't know where the next check was going to come from or agreement was going to come from, or if a contract was going to pay what they were supposed to pay. And you just have to, like I said, you got to manifest it and you got to believe that God's got a plan. You just have to do
Mm-hmm.
what you got to do. But sometimes it takes some physical determination to also get it done. And one of the things I did not too long ago is I actually got a tattoo on my hand. I'll show it to you. That
Oh,
says "taking care of business," and it's got a lightning bolt. And that's actually Elvis's term for his band, but I
yes.
just did it a little differently. But the whole point was sometimes you just got to take care of business, and it's not about
Mhm.
feelings, and it's not about anything else. It's just you got to get it done. And that's kind of the emphasis that I went into with this. And I had a really good friend of mine, Tim Hayden, who I went to school with at Southwest Texas before it was Texas State, and he had started down this journey. And so I've met with him a couple of times, and he really gave me some great advice on it too. So it's you got to rely on people that have done it before, find mentors, but
Mm.
ultimately, and this sounds very cliche, but you almost can't tell everybody what you're doing because there's a lot of people out there that have such a fear of that kind of scenario that they're only going to provide the negative results of what could happen.
Yes.
And dude, you don't need that.
I
You've got
agree.
enough of that negative stuff in your head, right?
Yes.
So, I know that sounds terrible, but like I didn't tell my mom and my dad or some of my good friends just because I knew what their feedback was going to be. No, no, go get a real corporate job. You're safer. You
Yeah,
are, but are you? You know what I mean these days?
I
I don't
agree.
know, man. I don't know. So, but it's really fun because I would really encourage anybody that's thinking about it, test it out. see if they can do it. You can do stuff on the side these days. There's all sorts of ways to do things at night, on the weekends, that kind of stuff. Start your
Mm,
own website. That's super easy, and just see what happens. There's a lot of ways.
yeah, that is so true, so powerful. This has been such an insightful conversation. We've covered so much
Thanks.
ground.
I'm going to
I
tell my
am
wife that too. She thought it was
yeah.
insightful. You should listen to her.
We'll send her
We'll see
the
how that goes.
episode.
Right. And blocked.
Oh, oh, funny. Well, I'd love to dive in before we wrap up into a
Okay.
fun section of questions. It's 4 questions,
Okay.
called rapid fire. So
Got
think
it.
of the first thing that comes to mind. So,
Okay. Hit it.
all right. First question is, what is a key to success for you?
Self-confidence.
Amen. What is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Uh, Honestly, don't be afraid to fail, because if you're not risking something, if you're not trying something, then you are getting passed behind. You have to keep trying, you have to keep testing, you have to keep risk, and don't risk everything, but don't be afraid to fail. Failing is actually how you succeed ultimately.
Very true. And what is a book or piece of content that you've taken in most recently?
This is going to sound crazy, but most recently I've actually been looking at old quotes from Marcus Aurelius. I know it's so dumb, but like my favorite one is, I actually put it on my phone. You need very few things to be happy. When you raise up in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, and to live. And then the other one that I thought was really cool is, the chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices that actually I do control. Which is like, understand what you can control, what you can't control. But they said it a long time ago. I've
Mm.
really been following a lot of those little quotes. I thought they were really cool. And I've actually sent a few to my team and stuff. I don't know if they delete them, but I think they're cool. So
I'm
that's
a
what's been
fan of
driving me
quotes.
lately.
Those are great. Thank you for
Thank
sharing those.
Yeah.
Our final question is, if there was one piece of your business you could rapidly improve overnight, what would it be?
Um, let's see, one piece of the business, probably that marketing stuff. We
Mm,
marketing is constantly evolving. And like, you know, if you remember, the attention span of the actual consumer used to be, what was it, 45 seconds, a minute, 10 seconds, something like that. Like these days, it's like 15 seconds. And
yeah.
you have to constantly be evolving what you're trying to get across, the storytelling, the consistency of message. And I'd love to have a magic wand that just automatically, whether it's AI or something, just automatically update the marketing storytelling for that. I think that's big, because you can't put out the same material, the same asset, the same content that you did a year ago, but yet you still have to hit those annual numbers, right? So that's the one thing in everybody's business that has to keep evolving. So that's one thing that I would continue to change for sure.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. Before we get to
Yeah.
the final question, how can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Well, they can email me at sam@aic1230group.com. Yes, I know it's long. I don't need my wife tells me that as far as my email goes all the time. Easy. And then the other one is shupp@paris1901.com. And either way, I love talking to people, love engaging with people. And, maybe we can help. So it's kind of cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Sam. For our final question for today is, what is most inspiring to you today?
Um, Probably my kids. Probably my
Hmm.
kids. I have a 10-year-old and I have a 13-year-old. And some of the stuff that they go through at school, and just it's so different, but yet they persevere. My daughter is about to try out for cheerleading, and my son is on the football team. And they still, the grades, the efforts, all that stuff, it's really cool. It's kind of the reason why I really kind of press through, take care of business. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just
Yeah.
gotta, it's a greater purpose, and ultimately, I wake up every morning and I meditate for a little bit and I pray, and God lays out the steps. But I think for the most part, my kids really drive a lot of that incentive for me, for sure. Thank you for asking that. Feels That's cool to
Yeah.
share. Yeah.
This is great, Sam. Thank you so much
Of
for this
course.
great episode.
Thank you. Hope so. We'll see.